Yo, so we got an update, y'all, for Blue Protocol Star Resonance, okay? We had a real deep dive of an interview for the English global version of the game that is going to be released later this year, and we are kind of excited about some of these things in here. Now, of course, I've been kind of on the fence about it because it is a game that is made for mobile as well as for PC, whereas the original was made for PC and console, so there was a much bigger focus on that type of MMORPG landscape that does not really bring in that mobile aspect, where the mobile aspect games tend to follow a fairly common functionality and tend to be fairly aggressive in their monetization. But we did get a whole developer interview here for the global side. So pretty much as seen here, Bokura extended a rare opportunity to the game's largest English-speaking fan hub, Star Resonance database. So pretty much what happened here is that people were able to ask questions, and then they would deliver questions back, answers back. So pretty much just dive into here and let's go over some of this good stuff. There's also an introduction of a new class, which if you played the Blue Protocol JP for its entire duration, you will be familiar with this class as well. It seems like there's some little reworks on it, but it appears more or less the same class. But if you play BPJP, this was a class that was released further down the line, so you will be not surprised by this. There's also included in here things such as when the beta is going to happen. So a lot of y'all are interested in that, when the beta is going to happen for the English version, all the etc., etc., etc. Any type of information. They asked to get plethora of questions here. Some I'm like, okay, and then some are pretty interesting, but some do kind of continue for me to have that worry for sure. But anyways, let's dive in. But first, be sure to like and subscribe. It helps out tremendously. Thank you very much. So this whole interview takes place with Roy, which is Bokura's founder and seasoned game producer, who's been the driving force behind MMO titles like Dragon S Mobile and Ragnarok Online, Love at First Sight. Not really too familiar with either of those titles. I played Ragnarok Online, the OG one, of course, but not too sure about Ragnarok Origin, Love at First Sight. If anyone can give me some information on those down in the comments below, how those operate, and that will help, of course, because it allows me to see the record, right? But this guy answered the community's most burning questions and didn't hold back. So let me also say that this is an interview from IGN. Now it was an exclusive interview from IGN with in cahoots with Blue Protocol Star Resonance database down there. So unfortunately, that's the case. Normally, I wouldn't really go to IGN for information because IGN tends to, how should I say it? They tend to kind of be like industry shills for the most part. There's been a lot of times where they review games that were complete doo-doo cheats and still are complete doo-doo cheats and have not performed well, and try to like hype them up as if they were going to be good, and they weren't good, and they just double down on it and just lied to their entire audience. So I don't really care to really read off of IGN or give IGN exposure. But nonetheless, this is a specific interview that was from IGN. So here we are. But anyways, let's dive in. MMOs nowadays try to cater to every type of player, PvE, PvP, role players, casual, hardcore, etc. But this often leads to a lack of proper direction and focus, resulting in none of the content reaching its full potential. This is very true. In the case of Star Resonance, who is the main target audience and which content areas will you primarily focus on? I thought this was a really good question because this is very true in today's MMO landscape nowadays. Too often you see these companies, they try to get every single box, they try to tackle every single box. They go for the casuals, for the hardcore players, for everyone. And as a result, the game is not good in any of these fields. You get bored quickly. It's really just you hop on, you hop off. There's no feeling of meaningless to anything that you're really doing in the game, because there's no thing that is really just actually good. Everything's just mediocre. You see this way too much nowadays. So this is a very good question. I'm glad that they asked this question. So the response here, many members of our team, including myself, are anime enthusiasts. Combined with my years of experience as an MMO producer, I've always dreamed of creating an MMO with a distinct anime aesthetic. We know this is an ambitious vision because today's market lacks games that truly cater to both anime enthusiasts and traditional MMO players. This is true. This is also a very big and large statement for you to make if you're actually going to be able to deliver that. Because when we say traditional MMO players, how traditional are we going to get here? Because they mentioned further down the line that they're trying, that it's like a mid to casual targeting. It's like they're trying to target casuals as well, which kind of contradicts the traditional MMO players. Traditional MMO players are not casuals. They aren't. At any rate, That's exactly who we're building this game for. Players who, like us, love deep MMO experiences and vibrant anime-style worlds. The game's core gameplay will focus on a PvE battle and casual gameplay hybrid model. That said, as we continue updating the game and gathering player feedback, we may expand into other areas in the future. So, of course, it's focused on PvE, which, of course, the main one was as well. So, this was to be expected. And you see here, casual gameplay hybrid model. As you see there, the casual, and that heavily contradicts with traditional MMO players. Traditional MMO and casual gameplay those aren't really two words that quite frankly should be lined up together in the same sentence because they kind of contradict each other, to be completely honest. They really do. Anyways, we'll move on. Monetization is one of the biggest concerns for Western players compared to the Eastern player base. Absolutely, this is 100% true. Generally, players don't want others to gain an unreasonable progression advantage by spending money. Specifically, the Chinese beta test revealed that the game has a premium to in-game currency conversion system without any daily or weekly restrictions, similar to many recently criticized MMOs in the West. Are you planning to adjust this for Western community? If so, what is your current approach? This answer was kind of iffy. So we're responding, as mentioned earlier, our game focuses on a PvE battle and casual gameplay hybrid model. There goes that casual gameplay again. So we certainly don't want a pay-to-win environment here. While we do offer pay-for-convenience options, like currency conversion, none of these provide exclusive advantages. All progression items can be earned through gameplay, and the trading center ensures that even paid boosts indirectly benefit the broader community by circulating resources. These systems are designed to help players with limited playtime or those joining later to catch up, rather than creating an imbalanced situation, and we believe this approach will create a relatively balanced gameplay experience, fostering a fair ecosystem and a healthier in-game economy. We also recognize that players may want to support the development team through these optional purchases, allowing us to continue creating more high-quality content. This is a real nice way of just saying, we want to fish your money. We want to pull your money. They're saying we also recognize that players want to support the development team. No, you want to find predatory ways to pull money from your player base. That's what this is. This is just sweet business lingo talk to try to, sugarcoat it pretty much. No, this has nothing to do with you understand that some of your player base wants to support the development team. No, this is you want to milk money from your player base, which, I mean, it's okay. You're a business, but just be upfront about that. Don't try to sugarcoat that. As makes you look bad. Then they dive into content. Content is another critical factor in MMOs. What kind of vertical progression related content can casual and hardcore players currently expect to engage in Blue Protocol Star Resonance? I hate that they asked here specific. What kind of vertical progression related content? I really don't like that because every game's been vertical since World of Warcraft, and I really wish that more games would utilize horizontal progression as well. You can do both, but I really wish that they didn't lock them into this question by saying vertical progression. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think this is a great example of showing that there's a split, of course, still within the MMO community, and that this question should not have been asked in this manner because this question really represents only this individual who asked it, instead of really representing a greater question of the whole MMO escape. They should have asked just what kind of progression-related content can casual and hardcore players currently expect, or they should have asked what kind of vertical and or horizontal progression. So I would force them to give a proper answer back about if there is, about how it differentiates between vertical and horizontal elements within the game. That would have been much more better question to ask here, instead of locking it into vertical progression only related content in regards to this answer. So I'm not really a big fan of that because, like I said, I very much enjoy. I think horizontal games are more fuller. For those who are not aware, horizontal games are beefier. Everything you do in the game it matters. It's worth something. Everything, even talking to a side NPC, it matters. So it's just real beefy. So you never get bored. That's how horizontal games are. But of course, the vertical format, after World of Warcraft made it popular, made pretty much every game become vertical after that. So we've seen vertical for like the last 20 years in most popular titles. So it's kind of annoying to see. It's annoying to keep seeing it. Of course, it's a model that works and it's cheap. Because it allows them to just kind of erase stuff and then just put stuff on top. Erase stuff, put stuff on top. Erase stuff, put stuff on top. So that's what vertical progression is. Whereas horizontal is that everything, even 10 years down the line, is still as relevant as it was on day one. Even though you've added updates, you've added like 10 expansions, that day one stuff is still as relevant and still as useful and still as everyday gameplay for everything in the game 10 years down the line. That's how horizontal works. Obviously, vertical is a much cheaper format to use because it allows you to just erase and stack, erase and stack, erase and stack. So, but it's super annoying for someone who lived through the horizontal era. Obviously, a lot of people have not, so they only know vertical games, so they wouldn't know. They wouldn't know what to do with that. So they don't understand how much beefier and how much more enjoyable horizontal games can be. But nonetheless, the answer here is that we believe combat and progression are the heart of the MMO experience, so we've designed these systems to cater to all types of players. Through extensive iteration, we've created a battle system that's easy to pick up for newcomers, but deep enough to challenge veterans. For hardcore players, we've built a robust PvE ecosystem from class customization to dungeons and open world encounters. As players grow stronger, they'll test their skills in high stakes battles, including 5-player dungeons, which was in the previous game, and 20-player raids, which is in the previous game, although I think it was more than 20 people, all while earning exciting rewards. Each season will introduce fresh content like new classes, dungeons, and PvE modes to keep the experience dynamic. For casual players, we're crafting a relaxed social playground with features like house building, life skills, fishing, etc. We're also planning seasonal events for social play. Over time, we'll add more social minigames, aiming to create a vibrant world that feels like a shared amusement park for everyone. Our goal is to create a playground where every player, whether competitive or casual, can find their own adventure. And so here are some images that they actually showed from this. These actually kind of surprised me because they actually look really good. Honestly, they look like the same quality of Blue Protocol JP. So a lot, in a lot of the gameplay and the videos and stuff and pictures I've seen of the game, with mobile or PC, the game hasn't looked this sharp. And so it actually looks much sharper here. It looks, it's not as good as BPJP, but it's darn near close in terms of the graphical capabilities of it. So, however, this one still is kind of off. But nonetheless, this looks at the detail on that's pretty nice. The world around, you can see it's not the most sharpest of things, but it looks good nonetheless. If you look at the environment, this one's a pretty good one too. As you can see, the rendering distance there and the detail of everything. However, these are promotional photos, so I'm not sure if this is actually, if it will actually look like this when you're flying in the air like this and everything's rendered at this distance. Not sure if that's actually the case, but this does it looks much better right here in these pictures that they showed. So that was interesting. This one as well, where it kind of shows this large, long rendering right here. This looks pretty good in terms of graphical capabilities. And there's this one here of the city of what was it called? Asteris, something like that. I can't remember. Even though I played the game for the entire duration on JP, it's the same name for the city. And then there's this one as well. And then there's this one. Of course, these are all new original characters. So, of course, there's an original storyline with Star Resident. So, that will be interesting to see. The original storyline in the JP one was really good. So, I'm interested to see what they do here and how they, if they can even touch that thing like to a candle. Because the one on JP's side was phenomenal. But there was a lot of work that went into it, a lot of development that went into it, and a lot of resources that went into it as well. Then you see this one here. This is an enemy here. So I mean, it doesn't look too terrible. Doesn't look too terrible. This one's obviously kind of an art, as you can tell by kind of the drawings here. But I'm not sure if these are more so promotional images or not. That's the only thing that I'm not too sure about that. So, we'll see how it is. I guess whenever we'll see gameplay whenever the Chinese version comes out, which comes out this month in July. We'll have an idea. At any rate, we'll keep moving here. So many MMOs tend to introduce more and more systems over time. This often leads to a high barrier of entry to the game and overwhelms the active player base. To avoid this, it is much simpler to expand the currently existing systems, adding skills, expanding talent trees, etc. I love how they say. I love how like this question is one person. To avoid this, it is much simpler to expand the currently existing systems. Like this is just one person who asked this. Um, they're leading with the question. That I don't like that they're leading with a question. So they're leading a response instead of asking a question. You're guiding the person to respond a certain type of way. And that's pretty much what this is here. So I don't like that. Instead of adding new ones, what is your design philosophy when considering the future development of the game? And their responses were intentional about keeping progression systems streamlined. Our philosophy is simple. Whether you're a new player just starting out or a veteran player or a veteran returning after a break, we want you to jump back in effortlessly without cramming a ton of new mechanics. That's why we focus on expanding existing systems, adding depth, new goals, and fresh twists, rather than piling on entirely new mechanics. Long term, this keeps the experience fresh but familiar, ensuring that players always have meaningful ways to grow without feeling overwhelmed. I mean, that's a fair response, I guess. I feel like it's kind of. I feel like the response comes off as kind of. I don't know. It just feels vague. I guess it feels like it leaves a lot of questions on if there will actually be meaningful stuff to do. That's just kind of how it came off to me. Maybe not to y'all. Question 5. MMOs often face the issue of mandatory progression related content being too grindy, difficult, or time consuming for the majority of the player base. Remember how we were talking before about traditional MMO players and then casual hybrid? And seeing this, easing the difficulty for progression related content, adding social focused content for after progression, and including optional but challenging content for those seeking a challenge seem to be effective solutions. What is your current stance on this and how do you plan to address it? Their response is making cool progression both enjoyable and accessible has always been one of our top priorities. We're adopting a seasonal approach. Oh, yay, seasonal. Not only to introduce fresh content, but also to revitalize existing activities with thematic updates. Ensuring even veteran players to find new excitement in familiar gameplay, we're also deeply committed to enhancing social experiences. Social interaction is the heart of our game, as is with all MMOs, and every piece of content is designed to bring players together. After all, the most memorable moments often emerge from player-driven interactions, correct? It's how MMORPG is supposed to work, y'all. Some of y'all do not understand this, but MMORPG, its community, is the game. If the community is bad, then the game will ultimately not succeed. Period. That's how MMORPGs work. MMORPGs aren't the same as just a regular MMO. You know what I'm saying? They're not the same as an online shooter game. No, the community is the center of MMORPGs. So naturally, all this right here, they understand this in that regard. That the most memorable moments often emerge from player-driven interactions. So to foster this, we're building a more diverse game ecosystem that caters to different playstyles. Whether it's PvE, casual gameplay, or relaxed social activities, for example, we've invested significant effort into developing the housing system. While it was not available in the test server yet, we'll continue expanding it through seasonal updates, enriching its depth, variety, and overall appeal to strengthen player connections. By consistently refining and expanding content this way, we aim to create a vibrant, inclusive world where every player finds their place. Honestly, I'm not overly impressed by this response right here. Um, not overly impressed by this, especially by this question here. The question in itself, kind of, I do. We don't need another lobby grinding. Sit around the lobby. Just customize your character, dress up, waste of an entire MMORPG world game. We don't need that. We don't need that. We need a game that is an MMORPG. You're talking about you want to address traditional MMORPG players, traditional MMOs. Understand that traditional MMOs and those players want some of this more grindier stuff. We want stuff like that. The thing that a lot of these companies gets a lot of these companies is that I don't know, maybe they're just like getting the wrong information from the wrong people. And they design their games around like these different pathings that are not representative to the actual player base. I think a lot of times, people online that are answering or that are, given opportunities to ask these questions and stuff like that, or don't represent the general majority of the player base. Because the general majority of the player base usually actually isn't in these spaces. They just play the game. They hop on the game. They're in the game. They're not on, the Discord. They're not on, the X accounts. They're not on these things. And so as a result, I think that companies far too often they get the wrong information. Because these people who are in these discords or are on these X accounts are speaking from what they believe, what they want. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of times they're the minority and the vast minority in that. So it can be tricky in this regard. Now, I'm not saying that, everyone wants a super duper, takes 24 hours to level one class to level 2. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that. But I am saying that very often stuff like this comment here, these comments, um, do not necessarily reflect the actual player base of MMORPGs. In other genres, yes, but MMORPGs not necessarily. So that can be a little tricky there. And I think a prime example of this is even games like Final Fantasy 14. And of course games like PS2 and GS. So it's a lot of the dev teams were misguided a lot by the people who were able to have access to give them information, to give input. And as a result, those games have largely lost their appeal for traditional MMORPG players. They're more so just fashion dress up games now. And they thought that that's what people wanted. It's not. That's why you see the numbers constantly dwindling down. And of course, they might peak back up very briefly when the expansion comes out, but they're consistently going down. So that's why you're seeing that, because it's not representative of the actual MMORPG player base. The MMORPG player base is playing the game. And then we have a picture right here. This is the Fire Dragon. This guy was in the first game as well. However, I don't think he was ever positioned out here in the grassy areas. He was always in the desert, if I recall correctly. So it's cool to see him out here having this little joyful thing. This guy right here, this boss right here, is usually what would be like a 20-person fight. So you know how they mentioned the 20 people fights. Usually this would be that. I think it was a bit more in the JP version, but this guy would be one of those fights right there. So and then we have question 6 here. The community would love to see the game include content that enriches exploration, similar to timed or dynamic events present in other MMOs. These are unscheduled events that randomly appear throughout the world while bringing the community together. Are there any plans for such content? And the answer, as fellow MMO players, we absolutely love dynamic events like these. They're a fantastic way to encourage exploration and spontaneous player interaction. However, with our current development resources, we're prioritizing and refining the game's core experience first. That said, we're actively evaluating the potential for unscheduled. They're just saying maybe we'll do it in the future, but they're not right now. That's what they're saying right here. So don't expect any of these types of things right now in the game, but possibly in the future. But they're in no rush to do so. They're going to see how this performs in China. That's what's going to go on here. They're going to see how it performs in China. That's really going to give them a real good idea of what they kind of want to do. That's why they say with our current development resources. With our current development resources. That's why they're saying that. Undoubtedly, the game's player base will include many anime enthusiasts. Can we expect collaborations with anime franchises in the future? Oh, great. Here we go again. Collaborations with anime franchises. Don't get me wrong. I've been watching anime all my life. And I love anime. Don't get me wrong. But whenever I see collaborations with anime franchises, it makes me think, oh, this is about to be another dress-up simulator game or something of the sort. That's just what it makes me feel like. Just what it makes me feel like, y'all. Absolutely. As an anime-inspired MMO, our game naturally aligns with anime and manga IPs. We are also excited about future collaborations and are confident about the BPSR's potential in this aspect. The real question is, which IP should we team up with first? So they list that they're going to drop a survey soon, so that way people can give input about what animes they might want to see collabs with. Question 8 was a good one right here. I know a lot of y'all really want to know this one because some of y'all just really feel really like a certain type of way about this in these games, and yeah, it's not really that big of a deal, quite frankly. But currently, direct player-to-player trading is not possible, and gear cannot be traded in the auction house. However, the shared warehouse system allows players to have a shared space with a limited number of friends for trading, which is especially beneficial for the life skill profession aspect of the game. Unfortunately, only a limited number of life skills materials can be placed in the shared warehouse. Do you plan to address this limitation? So yes, as you see there, There's no player-to-player trading. It's not possible, okay? It's not possible. Get over it. It's not possible. With the current stage, we're not planning to lift these restrictions. Past experience shows that allowing ability-enhancing items and shared storage lets the players feel forced to create multiple alternate accounts. That's why we've limited such items while still maintaining a system where friends can share resources. We want to encourage cooperation without creating a pressure to grind on alts. There's another picture. Flying through the sky. Flying through the sky. And then they proceed here with the current life skill system heavily favors players who have the time to create and play alternate characters. As life skill energy is character specific, most casual players don't have the time or interest in creating alternate characters. How do you plan to address this and similar issues relate to this in the future? They actually flat out say we actually do not encourage multi-character gameplay. Our shared storage system is intentionally designed this way to avoid grinding on alts. We have the players create alternate characters to experience different character body types and genders, not optimization for the main character. We've reworked the life skill system to optimize the experience for casual players and players who are dedicated to life skills. Here's what we've done. And so you can see here a list of what they've done right here. So their whole intention is not to have alternate characters. They don't want people to have alternate characters, so they try to design things around here to not have alternate characters, which is good. Which is good. You know, not feeling forced to have alternate characters is good. However, that being said, while they designed to not have alternate characters, there's nothing here that mentions that you can't just do that with an alternate character and get a one-up leg on it. Quite frankly. In this question, the auto combat system currently allows players to stand in place and attack nearby monsters. We all get tired of this. We all know how this is auto attacking. We all have an issue with this. As MMORPG players, we all have an issue with this, where you have the auto attackers, the AFKers who auto attack. You see here they talk about the West only dislikes automated combat systems, and we do, because too often you see people AFK farming so and so and just auto attacking, or they'll try to auto attack within a fight. And it's the most annoying thing because you're not participating. This is the character doing random moves, and it becomes a nuisance and it becomes very annoying. It becomes problematic for the entire immersion and playing experience. Their answer here is not really a great one. Our vision is to create a fun world for players to explore, so we've implemented auto combat and auto pathfinding in a very careful way. We want the auto function to solely reduce meaningless grind time in low difficulty areas without compromising core gameplay. That's what you want, but that's not what you're going to get. For a long-term MMO, some convenience features are necessary for players to handle relatively repetitive and low difficulty features. Additionally, we've strictly controlled the rewards from monster grinding, which will minimize the impact of players' AFK farming. Like I said, this is what you want, but it's not what you're going to get. I assure you it's going to be abuse. Now, regarding the Western server structure, will it be split into regions, or can we expect a single mega server where everyone can play together? They say here they hope that they can make it a mega server. So that's what their intention is here, is to make it a mega server, but we'll see how that goes and how that works. Which the original game was a mega server as well for the most part. It's like you can get placed into, it was one server in that, you know, if you go to a city though, there'd be like, could be different instances of the city. Because if the city's like too populated, puts you in like a different instance. But all in all, it's one server. So one mega server. So this kind of what they're aiming for this as well. Which languages will be supported against release? They're saying English with Japanese voiceovers. Will a housing system be available at the game's release? If so, what features can players expect? They do say that it will be available at release. So it wasn't available during the beta, but it will be available at launch. Players can claim their own homestead at no additional cost, which consists of 2 parts, an island and a home, a home. Both exclusively for the player's use. Players can invite up to 4 friends, combination of 5 total. So 4 friends plus you, that's 5. And manage the house together. System offers high freedom of customization, things like building partition walls, arranging furnishings, and more will be possible. The house also includes farming features where grown crops can be sold to merchants for housing currency to be exchanged for furniture and other items. Additionally, some furniture can be crafted through life skills. Now they talk about here a new class. They say that the website shows a silhouette of a class using a guitar, which might be available at release. They say guitars will be available at launch. Guitars, for those who are wondering, that is the Bard. This was the, I forgot the, I don't know if it was called Guitars in BPJP, but this class came out and it pretty much looks like it operates in the same exact manner. It's a healer and a DPS, which is how the Bard was as well in BPJP. Yeah, so this is for anyone who played Blue Protocol JP for its entire duration. This is nothing new to you. This is a class that came out then, so this is nothing new to you. And then here they ask about Steam Deck, which we're not really concerned about. They maybe will announce on Steam Deck, but we don't really care. It will support controller though. Based on the Chinese beta test, it seemed like the character customization options, as well as the variety of costumes and accessories in the game, were very limited. Can we expect more options in these areas for the Western release? If so, what additional options can players look forward to? Now, this answer here, there's a couple things that I don't really like how they word it. We'll continuously add more outfits and cosmetics, including mix and match pieces, to allow players to express themselves as they want, while the core customization categories will remain the same. We will add more options for players to choose from, more eye shapes, hairstyles, etc. So that's what I say. I'm not too sure what the mix and matches, the mix and match pieces. I'm not sure what that really entails. That's for players to express themselves as they want. Not entirely sure what that is entailing there, but just don't go overboard with whatever it is. That's all I would say there in terms of recommendations and keeping a core audience. Question 17. Are there any plans to make a character creator available before the game's release? They did mention that they have thought about this, however, it's not available at the moment, but they might be able to do that so we can create your character in advance. Community is eager to test and play the game in the West as soon as possible. Can you provide any hints, teasers about future tests or the release date? We're preparing the beta for global now, having seen CN China players enjoy 2 tests. We know fans all over the world are excited to try Blue Protocol Star Resonance. While I can't share exact dates yet, the wait won't be much longer. So we know it's supposed to get released global in 2025. So we could probably expect this maybe within the next 2 months that we see the beta, I would imagine. Probably next month, I imagine, in August. That's what I would imagine with how they're kind of wording here. And then lastly here, can we expect more regular opportunities like this, both before and after the game's release, for the community to provide feedback and ask questions? Community. This is like one guy asking a question, as we saw with some of these questions that were being asked. This is not the community asking a question. This is like one guy asking a question. Additionally, will there be future developer live streams for the Western audience in English or with subtitles? Yes, we have developer talks for English fans planned. Other programs like developer live streams are also possible. Stay tuned for more. So, my thought about this whole thing here, in particular, my thought is, for one, when it comes to these feedbacks and stuff like this, they're asking about more regular opportunities like this for feedbacks. Please do these in game. Don't pull these, like, if you're doing this after release, please do this in game. Don't do this through like Discords and stuff like that. Do it through the game. Have like a survey that you can access from the game, because that's how you're going to actually learn what your players want. It's through the people who are actually playing the game. Most of the majority of people who play MMORPGs, the typical general MMORPG landscape, are not people who just always linger around on Discords or on X, or they play the games and they do what they do. That's what they do. So if you really want to understand your player base, always try to put these surveys within the game itself. That's the best way to go about it. Do not put it into some Discord server or restrict it to some Discord server. Do not restrict it to X or whatever. Do not restrict it to, whatever. Just some website or whatever. Do not do that, because it's not the best way to go about it at all. So that would be my recommendation for that, if they do plan to do these types of things again. But nonetheless, what y'all think here about the about this interview that we got here, strictly from them for the global release of Blue Protocol Star Resonance? There's some pretty good information in here, and the best question was by far some of these first questions that were up here. I think have the best impact on the interview, but some of these questions definitely were not did not feel representative of the community itself, for sure. But all in all, we'll have more information coming for Blue Protocol Star Resonance down the line. Of course, once the game is released, we will be covering it in full, as I played the JP version for its entirety over a year. So it's only natural that I would cover it as well when Star Resonance comes out. Of course, if Star Resonance isn't being bad, then that coverage will be very short and we won't cover it too long. But we will cover it, of course, from day one on, and see how it pertains. So we're interested to see how it works out. At any rate, be sure to comment down below, y'all. Let me know what y'all think about this whole situation. And I will see y'all in the next one. It popped these pictures and it's neat little pictures. Doesn't look too good over here on the screen, right? But nonetheless, it is what it is. I think it does look better than initially it did. But at any rate, be sure to like, subscribe, y'all. I'll see you on the next one. Much love. Spike content.